Goal of our project is improved education for physically disabled children in Nigeria. So this is a long-range, broad goal, which now trickles down to specific objectives towards attaining this broad goal. One of our objectives is improved access for children with physical disabilities in 10 public schools in Amak, and increased numbers of children with physical disability enrolled into 10 public schools in Amak by 55%. And our intermediate results include some cooperation and education of key stakeholders on inclusive practices. So we also have increased awareness on inclusive education among school administrators and other key stakeholders like parents, community members, etc. And then we also have access to school building and facilities. For our activities, we have a number of them. When you look at this intermediate result, these are the activities that we have that would help us achieve this. We have one-on-one meetings with key influencers. We have meeting with the AMAC chairman and councillor. We have advocacy meetings with school administrators. We have advocacy meetings with media executives, and then we have meetings with Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities as key stakeholders. And then under this result, we have social media engagements, we have radio, TV programs, we have engagement with PTA in public schools, and then we have engagement with village heads within selected schools. And then we have training the trainers on being sensitive towards the needs of students with disability. So it's not enough to just create the RAMs.
So when you also look at under the axis here, the baseline survey is highlighted here, and that's because first we need to even conduct and to verify the data that we have already presented in our context background, and also to identify needs, because we may have 50 or 100 schools within this AMAC. So we need to identify which one do we think, for instance, we have higher population of pupils, and we feel that our intervention is going to go a long way in ensuring that more and more children with disabilities access those. Our facilitation of building, majorly, we're lobbying. All of these people that we're meeting, the multi-stakeholders that we have, we're engaging them, and it's continuous advocacy. So we are working on them to actually work and make this thing happen for children with disabilities. Follow-up visits to the sites, because we have gotten commitments, or because we will get commitments. We as a group would always make site visits to ensure that if there are timelines that we have agreed with these stakeholders for these ramps to be built, we have to follow up and give feedback both to them and also the general public and also the school administrators. So both of us are actually monitoring the progress as the implementation is happening. And some of our performance indicators here to show whether or not we have ramps in those schools are, we see things like to see access rather to the physical structures. We're seeing wheelchair ramps in 10 public schools in Amak. That is a key, we feel, is one of those indicators that will tell us that physical access in those schools is being taken care of. Because it's ramps. If it's there, you're going to see it. So when we see it, we know that there is access. And another also is at least a 20% rise in enrollment of children with disabilities. If during this baseline we have identified, for instance, in all of the 10 schools, we have a total of 50 children with disabilities who are already attending school. Are we seeing any increase of, say, 20%? That's the barest minimum we're working with. So this is the least percentage that we want to see. An increase in that, at least that means we should have up to 10 more new enrollments into these schools as a result of our intervention. That will tell us if there is an increase in number of enrollment of children with disabilities in that school. And so here also, we look at call to action by TV stations. If they have created awareness, we have already spoken with them, we have held several meetings with them. One of those things that will tell us, that will indicate to us that awareness is increasing and all of that is when we begin to see media stations making call to action to key stakeholders, education stakeholders, both in the radio and also the TV space regarding the need for those schools to be accessible and for inclusive education to have its place. We also see things like news mention of inclusive practices. So because we are going to train people, the media is also going to be part of that training. We're expecting that if they have carried on these things, some of these indicators will tell us. If we're hearing news mention of inclusive practices in the media space, it means that certain people have carried our message and they're beginning to act on it. So we're seeing awareness increasing. And also we see community referrals of children with disabilities to target schools. So that means that these parent teachers, community heads are already working. And once we see referrals happening, it is already an indicator that we're going towards increased enrollment. More so is when we see teachers and other students supporting children with disabilities directly, because we talk about this is a behavior change. While we have provided the ramps, some of them may still have some needs, to be able to function well in classrooms. So are we seeing some of these behaviors already in the teachers and also the students? How do we even measure and see all of that? So some of our means of verification, for instance, for this is when we begin to see pictorials, when we take video testimonials, because we're going to go back to these schools and document some of these things as they happen. So those actually serve as our means of verification in that regard. And some of those also are pictures, signed attendance sheets, pictorial, short films, questionnaires or field surveys when we are doing our baseline survey. So that will serve as means of verification that we have actually carried out these activities. Some of our assumptions here. We are assuming that provision of ramps in school is going to increase enrollment of children with disabilities, and that may not be true. It's one thing for us to create the ramps, or for those ramps to enhance for the creation of those ramps. And it's another thing for parents to know that there is a ramp and send their kids to school. And it is not solely under our control to increase enrollment once these ramps are built. So we feel that is an assumption. That media houses will cooperate and partner with us is also another problem. So it's an assumption, but it is not necessarily true that they may want to partner with us. So what are our contingency plan? We will appeal to the CSR of media houses. And where we try to do that and is also failing, we can resort to naming and shaming in the media. For instance, if we hold a meeting, you have committed you're going to do this as a minister and you don't, we'll go to Human Rights Radio and we'll let out every information. You have committed you're going to do this, we're waiting. So that is a way to prompt people, because a lot of people listen and his directors are going to listen to it. So people are concerned about their image in public offices. And so we feel that is a mitigation or a contingency plan that we may deploy. Community engagement on the availability of ramps. We'll still be engaging with the community, especially community of persons with disabilities down there, who are stakeholders and at the same time beneficiaries, because their children would benefit from those intervention. And also tagging and shaming on social media. Social media is a very good tool. Yes. When someone is not working, tag the organization. The moment you keep writing complaints and complaints, it becomes a problem for them and they react. So we feel these are contingency plans that we have in place, to ensure that anybody who is not budging to our side, we will shame the person, and anyone who is yielding, we'll keep naming and keep praising those people, that they are actually being inclusive within the organization. And most organizations will not want to be seen as being discriminatory.